Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon, even though it says Hedgehog Makes, aka Luke, and I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. What does that mean? Well, it means we do everything from unboxing of commercial type printers like the X1 Carbon and the Prusa Mark IV underneath here, to various mods, full up printer builds, and even some prototyping. So what we've been working on today, or actually what we've been working on over the last few weeks, has been building the box turtle, which is currently in a closed beta. And I will show you here in a second. I actually have two of them on the bench right now. The one that you've seen on the stream, the red and orange one, and then my original white and blue one that I built. Um, and what I was having some issues with the white and blue one. Or actually, before I get started there, welcome on in, Petty Ruxpin. Glad to see you. Welcome on in, Timor. My apologies, folks. I I'm a little hyped up. I'm a little wired. I may have stayed up late playing Satisfactory, um, and didn't get much sleep. And of course, it's been a weird week as it is. Um, so my company did a big layoff, which they finally announced all the names of impacted. Well, they didn't announce the names of who was impacted, but they notified impacted personnel yesterday. So that's been kind of weighing on everybody over the last few days. So, but yeah, I needed to blow off some steam, so I played Satisfactory. What are the differences between the two? Um, Color scheme. There was some slight differences in here. Let me do this. Tale of two box turtles, aka Turtle Turtle. Um, so right now the main differences between these two are right here in these center motors. Right, it's the respooler motors and the housings that are slightly different between these two sets of prints. The other thing was how I wired a couple of things. We made some changes to the red one. So I wanted to make sure that this one was exactly wired the same. And I'll make the config tweaks. And I'll show you what I'll do is basically I will take the CAN bus from this one and just put it in the same config. So all I have to do is comment one out and uncomment the other, and I can switch back and forth between these two on the printer up here, so I can maybe play with it a little bit more rather than having to keep going downstairs where I can't visibly see it when I'm trying to do things. I'll say during the day when I'm working. Yeah, our Rittenhouse. It was pretty bad, and Cisco, they did about a 4% layoff, which was about 4,600 people in February, and they announced a 7% layoff a month ago when they did earnings call, and they just finally announced who was impacted. Um, my, I'll say my part of the organization overall had only 5 people, but a couple of my folks that after I lost 2 people in February, the remaining 6 team members were moved to other parts of the org, and I became a individual contributor again. And I just found out that two of them, one from each of the teams that got divested out, or one from each of the groups that they were divested into, uh, got tapped on the shoulder. So no, it was Cisco. It was Cisco. And like I said, it is what it is. It's the nature of the business. I've been in, I'm retired Air Force, so I've done the whole Air Force thing. Then I got out and I did defense contracting for about 10 years. The only difference was there you knew when the contracts were coming up for renewal. So you kind of knew who the players were because who was, you could go out online and see who was putting in bids against different contracts. And at the end of the day, if you liked the job and you were good at it, chances are, as a incumbent body, even if the company that had the contract change, you were going to get an offer to stay on, right? That was kind of that part sucked. And folks, I just thought of something. I said I needed to pull the CAN bus UUID for this to make life easier, and the printer downstairs isn't on. So give me 1 second. I'm going to run downstairs and turn it on so I can go through its thing and error out because the box turtle's not connected. But I'll be able to grab the config file and get that UUID. And so the printer that the blue and white one was built on, and well, not built on, but was connected to, was the Trident 350 that we built that was sitting downstairs. It had a Enraged Rabbit Carrot Feeder V2 on it, and I decided, no, it'll be the easiest thing to work on the box turtle with. One, because it uses an MMU currently, or excuse me, an MMB board, the Big Tree Tech MMB, and it just is a little bit easier that way. So there was two things that were a little bit different in the wiring, and I think I've already changed one. Got to put a box or something there because of the little stubs. But on our MMB connections, which you're not going to be able to see really, unless I remove some things, the power for the MOSFET board, I was pulling it from the very front connector. So if I go over here, so the way I had both of these plugged in, the power for the MOSFET board, which is our little 4-board 5-volt MOSFET, right? It's 4-lane MOSFET is what it is. It was being pulled from STP11 over here. And what Rob and Longshot were telling me was it would be better to pull that power from the motor connector. So I switched it from STP11 over to the motor connector. And we were starting to see, at least, I'm still having some issues, but we were seeing some progress on the red and orange one. On the white and blue one, I was pulling power from the I2C ground and 5-volt to power the MOSFET. I had the fan, the 5-volt fan back here, plugged into the 5-volt and ground of the motor connector. And that was simply because that particular connector was the closest one that the cord would reach to. The what did I do with that fan? Anyhow, the cord on that fan was like, I don't know, that long, where the cord on the Windsens were like that long. So my Windsen fans, I'm bringing up and plugging into PB10 and using the 5-volt and ground from PB10. And technically, if I think about it, I should be able to take and move the 5-volt, or leave the 5-volt there, but move the pin from ground down to PB10 and I should be able to like turn it on and off and power cycle it based on the temperature, do like a temperature fan based on the MMB, yeah, the MMB's temperature reading. I'm not going to play with that. It's an always on fan. So after the last stream, I did go and remove the GD Stein fan and replace it with a Winsen fan that I got from Amazon. That GD Stein fan, and I've used a lot of GD Stein fans, that thing was a bloody racket. And it just hurt my head. And then on the Trident Iron Dragon, I don't know if the fan is failing, if something's running up against it. I need to check some wiring to see if there's any wire that's running up against it. But if you saw the shorts video, it's the 5015 part cooling fan that is sitting behind the NAMI display on my stealth burner that's making the noise. So long story short here, what I wanted to do is just make sure that we were fully wired up the same way between the two boards. The other thing that I wanted to do that I needed to do is just look at the order and because I want to be able to use the same config back and forth. So the wiring pinout needs to be exactly the same between them so that I can literally unhook one, plug in the other, change the config file, or change the, I'll show you the CAN bus UUID between the two and do a restart, and I'm up and running again, right? So the red one here, I have wired, everything is keyed on the RGB connector here. So trigger 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is the front sensors here that are triggered when you insert filament. Okay. Then 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the end stops in the extruders. Okay. So that gets us there. Then the hub, the sensor that's at the back at the hub, because we have a 4-into-1 hub in the back here, is in PB11. PB10 has the 5-volt ground in use to run the 3010 5-volt fan always on. And now STP11 is left open. Now on the red and orange one, I configured them so that lane 1 is the the sensor, which would be the encoder loading, or the encoder pin basically. PA0, which is the motor, this would be the servo, is lane 2. PB3 is lane 3. PB4 is lane 4. On the other one, on the blue one, I went the reverse order on these 4. So I need to swap those 4. The other thing that I am noticing as I'm physically looking at these switches, on the white and blue one, I did the same wiring on all 9 switches, meaning I used the outer 2. On the red and orange one, on the front encoder end stops, I did the common and the center. So I will need to fix that. I will do that off stream so that they are that all the end stops are the same. They're on the outer 2 as a normally closed setup. Different parts, like different printed parts, is one thing. If your wiring is all the same, then you can interchange between them and you can build a second or third to test iterations of the various parts. And there is a new version of the parts out that I still need to print. And I may rebuild one of these based on that new set of prints. The extruder motors are going to be the same. Those can come out. The front lane in-stop triggers, I believe those are the same. I can just undo those and pull them out. The lane trays, the rear idlers will change, and some more stuff up here in the front motor has changed. So that stuff, frame-wise, probably don't need to redo anything on the frame. It would just be the 4 lanes, the rear idlers, and the new front pieces up here that I would need to change up. Hey, Monlight, how's it going, my friend? Um, I've got one set of your parts done. I actually did them on 2 different printers, and I did the same set like an idiot, but that's okay. And I just need to do the one that you wanted in the orange. So I'll get that sliced up and printing tonight over here on the rat rig. So sometime tomorrow I should be able to get things packaged up. And I'm not going to commit to getting it in the mail to you tomorrow because I'm coordinating with Evil Diesel right now because I have to take my truck in for maintenance. There was some sensor went bad on it, and there's a recall on the truck with the engine management. So yeah, right now I'm gonna change the pins on for the N20 motors so that they're all triggering in the same way. So the only thing I need to do is CAN bus UID, and on the trigger end stops, I'm going to have to go in and either add or subtract the exclamation point to change the way they trigger until I pull these and resolder them on the outer pins, and then they'll both be the same again. So to do that, the easiest way for me to do that, because I need to get into 3 connectors that are right here, there's no easy way to get in there with meat mittens. So undo your PTFE tubes and just kind of rotate them out of the way. You'll undo the 4 screws holding lane 1's extruder in. And by the way, I've got 2 more MMBs, and I've got 2 of the AFC boards on order, but they're not going to get here until sometime. I have the MMBs now. The AFC boards from Ishtech won't be here until after 3D Printopia sometime in October, November timeframe. So I'm not going to worry about them. I'm going to continue to build with the MMBs, and I'll work. I mean, that's a config file, redoing wiring and config file. That somewhat easy. Okay, and I'm just going to physically move that out of the way by the wires. So now that gets me access to these pins right here so that I can pull them out. And I'm going to grab the horizontal 4-way here, which is the I2C connector. And I'm going to grab the, let's see, which one do I want to do? I guess technically I can just look over here and make sure I get the colors correct. So I'll go ahead and just depin these right now. Sure those tabs are raise back up a bit. And I do have a decent amount of service loop here, and this wire comes down and there's a bit of a gap. So redoing the wiring between a couple of pins here, I've got plenty of wire. I don't need to do anything crazy. You're going to be building a small CNC for your shop. Nice. So this is the um, heavier gauge wire that's providing the 5-volt over here to the MOSFET. I just need to remove the blue wire from here. And blue is lane 3. So lane 3 will go there. Which one of these is lane 2? The green, orange, what that is. That will go here with that power. And that gets plugged back there. Now this next one here, it's got a ground and a pin in it. I can leave the ground there, or I can move the ground over to the I2C. All this is doing is for your signal wires, we're providing a ground as well. So you've got 4 signal wires, A, B, C, and D, and then a ground. So it's up to you where you run that other ground. I'm probably going to pop it out and run it in the over into the I2C connector. I mean, they're all ground connectors, so common ground on the board. Okay. So ground is the second one in. So it would be the other middle pin. And then this being green 4. Okay. So this can go back in the 4-way connector. I'm just going to visually look at it again. So it should be empty, which would be the 5-volt, black for the ground, and then blue and green, blue and green. That one's there, and red is the A motor, which would be the first lane. Put that there and get that added back in there. So now the trigger motors, the respooler motors up here in the front are all connected the same way over to the MOSFET between the 2 boards. So that's good. All the extruders plugged in the same way. The trigger end stops are plugged in the same way. It's just I have physically soldered them differently on the end stops. So what I will do is on the red-orange one, later tonight after stream, I will desolder them and then solder them up the correct way. And then we're just going to take this back. Now there's this little trough down here for cable management. I just want to make sure that these cables here sit in that trough as well. So I kind of make sure that it's sitting in that trough and then just kind of rotate it down and slide it over. Line up our holes, and we can put our screws back in. And just like that, it's pretty easy. I find that taking out extruder 1 and just kind of flipping it over to the side makes it a lot easier to get in and do maintenance on this board. And so Monlight, what kind of CNC are you going to be building? Oh, not a problem, Monlight. Not a problem. Hey, Shrimp Father, how's it going? Going on? So we were rearranging some wiring. So I'm trying to make these two as identical as possible so that I can, one, I'm having troubles with the respooler motors, the little N20 motors on both of these. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that they are wired up identically so that I can test back and forth and figure out or try to figure out, is it a wiring issue? Is it a um is it a I got a batch of crappy motors issue? Because we got them all from AliExpress. I do have some on order that should get here Thursday from a stateside vendor. They're still off of Amazon, so they're probably somebody that's stocking stuff from AliExpress. It's just real hard for me to go to DF Robot and pay $7 plus shipping each. But if I get, and I've got ones coming in from AliExpress to build a third one. So if I wind up getting crap motors all the way around, then at this point I'll just bite the bullet, grab some from DF Robot and see if they're any better. So at this point, this one, well, don't forget you got to put your PTFE tubes in. That would be bad. Don't ask me how many times I was trying to, the other stream when we were working on this one, and I would tell it to go ahead and load and forget that I had disconnected the PTFE tube at the back. So, okay, so this one should be ready to go. We need to change the CAN bus UUID and change the, I'll say the state of the end stops, which will be basically make it, put an exclamation point in or take an exclamation point out, whichever we need. Okay, so this one I'm going to take and move over here for the time being. We're going to put it back up here on the rat rig, and it can oversee its little brother. I need to get this one out of the way for just a moment because we're going to bring the Trident in here. And for those of you that are on the Discord, you'll notice that I've got cable chain. Okay, I'll show you an issue that I was having with the Trident. Let me get it over here. Oh. Oh, I forgot I put that on there. I just break that. Surprisingly, it doesn't seem like I did. I damaged this. Doesn't look like I did. Good. Whew. Okay, so the Trident, we'll turn this around without spilling my coffee. This will come off for the second. So what I'm seeing is with this umbilical, I don't have the full wire in here because it keeps breaking off. I don't know why, but I can't get it to stay reliably in here and it keeps breaking off. So what I'm going to do is go to the cable chains, and I've got Nighthawk stealth burner boards. So I'm going to switch this from the SB2209 and go over to the Nighthawk Stealth Burner boards. And I figured out everything can still connect except the X end stop that I have connected here. So Y is physically relocated to the back. X I have on the lower side of the CNC tap. So my plan is switch over to the Nighthawk SB board, use the XY end stop pins to run my two filament sensors in the tool head, and then do sensorless homing on X, physical end stop on Y. It's Nighthawk SB is a USB based board, but the cable is cable chain rated. So you can run it umbilical or cable chain. And I'm just going to run cable chains on here. It's a Trident. I mean, as you can see, I've got the backers on here, and you really don't need backers on a Trident. The gantry doesn't move. It's not going to twist. So these are kind of superfluous on here, but I had a set, so I put it on there anyhow. So yeah, that's the issue with Trident at the moment, and why I want to swap that out. And KB3D Chris was nice enough to give me 4 of the boards at Merck. So I've got 4 boards over there. So I have enough to do all 4 of my, like my Trident 300 Iron Dragon, the Trident 350 Cyberchonk, Kyber, and Fey Dragon can be swapped out. So I can switch over to that for all of them. Hey, Free Heathen, how's it going? So we've got a slight difference here, Free Heathen, if you are just joining us. There's a different color in play. So this is my white and blue one. God, that is really, really white. Okay. That's going to play. I think it's just the sunlight that is making it into washing it out. So this was the first box turtle I built. Dang it, that's broken this feet. But this pro streamer here, yeah. So what I just did was I went and changed the wiring on the Big Tree Tech MMB over here so that it matches the wiring of the red and orange one. Because what I should be able to do is put this on here using my side skirt CAN bus connector. And the only thing I'll need to change in the configuration file is the CAN bus UUID for this board. And I'll need to change the normally closed to normally open status for these 4 triggers, because I wired the red and orange one up in normally open instead of normally closed. And I will resolve that after stream, because I'll have to get down and do some wiring to change. So I should be able to take this 4-pin cable, plug it into my side skirt like I did the other one, and we'll be able to bring the printer up. Now this will error out because it doesn't have the right UUID for the board in here. And by the way, I'm probably going to reprint all of these skirts to do the same hex pattern in here that I did on the other one. Oh, hey, Tugboat. Did you see the other one? So when I talk about the red and orange one, this is the red and orange one. And the parts are so interchangeable on some of these that I can just take these and put them in here, since I just realized that the blue and white ones are downstairs. And I will be printing the latest and greatest files here soon as well. And the blue and white one, since I'm going to reprint parts and I've got more filament now, I'm going to reprint that one first. And then I'll have enough parts here soon, possibly before 3D Printopia, that I can build a third one out of this. But what I'm going to do is turn this on. Like I said, it's going to take a little bit and then it'll error out, but that's perfectly fine. And oh, yeah. Hey, when you go and flip the switch, that's all good and dandy, but you got to remember, what do we call this? Layer 0? If there's no power plug, it's just going to look at you like you're stupid. And by the way, we iterated some. So first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, fourth attempt. We kept getting some clogs. We figured out what that was, which was I had a setting in the slicer wrong that I still need to fix. But then I made it a little bit bigger because I am using a 0.6 nozzle. It's not the best print because it did skip one of the changes for the white. So you'll see the white's not fully filled in because it was missing a layer, and so it sagged. But I did stay up and get through a full print of the box turtle. But I'm having to do manual respool because my respoolers aren't working. And that's what we're trying to troubleshoot and figure out, is why I can't get my respoolers, the motors up here, to respool. And I'm going to see. Okay. Let me bring up the browser window. Down here, right? And you will see that it says leg 1, 2, 3, and 4 ready. It lies. It thinks it's there, but hey, AFC is unable to connect. That is correct. So what we need to do here real fast is I need to switch over here and log into the printer downstairs, which is Cyberchunk. This is the one that was done in Pop Blue and Pop Pink ASA from Polymaker. And we're going to go into the AFC directory. In the, I believe it's AFC config. No. Fill it with my first gut. AFC hardware. And here's the CAN bus UUID for this. I copy that. Bring over here to Iron Dragon, which is this printer. Go to the hardware. And I need to swap this, or yeah, we'll say swap this out. I'm going to add that line in. So now I have basically 2 renditions of that line. Let me go to a different screen to make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Yeah, I'm getting a little fancy. People seem to like my colors, so I figure I might as well get a little bit fancier. Always plug it in. I'm happy you're not working on a live machine. That would be stupid. Remember, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hi, it's me too. Hey, Bexy Beans. So what I want to do is I want to make a very good indication in this file. So I'm going to remove that comment, and I'm going to say that this is a UID for the um, orange and red box turtle. And then the one down here, oof, um, this is the white and blue. Box turtle. So all I need to do is come up here and comment that top line out, and it won't be trying to talk to the red and orange one. It'll be trying to talk to this one now. And then once again, the other thing I need to do is my trigger sensors. Each one of these, I know they're wired up wrong. So I need to go and, in this case, add an exclamation point to the front of the AFC dash or ASC colon pin number. Okay. And now I'm going to say save and restart. And if everything goes right, it should come up here. Our clipper screen came up. It's doing its little light show thing here. And I now have 4 lights across the way. Okay. So switch back to browser window. So this will be bigger. So you notice we have all of our lights on and they're saying, hey, we're ready, but nothing's loaded. Okay. So once again, we're ready. Legs 1, 2, 3, and 4 are ready. And there is nothing loaded in the in any of the lanes yet. Now what I want to do is run a command called test space lane equals leg 1. What this should do is test this motor, the N20 motor that's in here, to see if it's working. Okay, and I'm hearing it try. Yeah, so I was hearing it try. It's engaged. I mean, that's a lot of force to try and move it. But it's, yeah, it's not moving easy. Or it's not moving at all. So I'm going to, hey, Built Over Bot, how's it going? Pete Savas, welcome in. Welcome in. Hi, Bob and Sandy. It's Beans. So now we're going to do the same thing for lane 2, which is the second lane here. Just going to do an up arrow and change it to 2 in that command. I hear it energize, and I'm seeing the light flick as it's doing PWM on this lane. And it's just not moving. It's trying, but it's not moving. So that tells me that I've got some type of a whatchamacallit, binding going on. Lane 3 and lane 4, because these are connected into the I2C. So anything is connected into the sensor or the motor port. So the sensor would be the encoder, the motor would be the servo. These have to go through PWM. So we have PWM turned on for these two. These two over here would just be straight. Hey, long shot, how's it going? So long shot here. I'm going through the testing procedure with the white one. When I engaged, so what I started off by doing was making sure that the white one is wired up lane number wise and everything on the MMB the same way. The only difference between the white and blue one and the orange and red one is the front 4 sensors on the orange and red one I wired up as normally open versus normally closed. So what I'm able to do is shut it down, unplug one, bring the other one, set it up here, plug it in, change the config, do a restart, and I can start testing and I can switch back and forth on this machine because the other machine, my 350, has to stay downstairs. It can't sit on the benches here. So I'm going through the process that we did. So these N20s are energizing, they're just not rotating, they're binding. And I can feel that. I think there's some binding in here. So I can work on that, and I'm going to reprint all of these lanes anyhow to the latest spec parts, which should help. With that, I'm going to try and do lane 3 now and see if I get any movement out of lane 3 or if we're binding there. And I didn't hear lane 3 engage at all. Lane 4. So on lane 4, I see the light come on for the lane, but I'm not feeling the motors move at all. In lane 3, yeah, the lights are coming on, but they're not, I'm not getting any movement out of 3 and 4. Yeah, that's the other thing I needed to do, was do that test. So I'm going to undo this, and I should have enough cable that I can move this around here to the front. Place it down in front here. Like so. And you want me to test how much is being pushed down each line, right? To see if I'm getting 5 volts or not. Like, what did I do with that? So on 1 and 2, it is doing PWM, and I am hearing it try. 3 and 4, I'm not hearing it try at all. Like on the PWM ones, lane 1 and 2, which are going into the sensor and motor connectors on the MMB, they're trying. You want me to, I'm going to try it at the MOSFET first, and then because I'd have to take the lane apart to dig the motor out because I can't get to the motor connectors. Which will be the next thing that I would be doing, would be testing whether or not I'm getting it at the motors or if I have bad solders or what have you. Stop the stream since the print's been done for a while. Common. Yeah, exactly. Check it on the terminal. So we're going to test for our voltage down here on these screw-in terminals. And is there a way, because they shouldn't be energized unless you're telling them to test. And as soon as you tell them to test, they're going to be like, it's a quick test. It's over and done. Is there a way of turning them on for a longer period of time? Yeah, because lane 1 or 2, at least it's going to energize and it's going to do the PWM. So it stays on longer, but 3 and 4 is like blink of an eye and it's done. So I'm not sure if we'll get a good reading on that. Four point 7. At the screw terminals for lane 4. Four 4.97 for lane 3. And of course, PWM goes all over the place, but it was at 4.7. Hey, Maker Viking. 4.84. And yes, you are correct. The motors as ordered were 6-volt, 500 RPM motors. And I didn't bench test them, and I don't have a variable power supply. I'd have to buy one or build one. But the end result here from this test is I'm not even getting 5 volts out. So I'm putting 5 volts in, supposedly, but I'm not getting 5 volts out. And I'm using a 20 gauge wire from the 5-volt motor over. So that, yeah, I mean, there's what, 3.6, I'm not sure if they do 36912 or 3612 on these motors, but yeah, I'm having a feeling that if we're not getting 5 volts and these are 6-volt motors, that could be a large issue right there. Have we looked into powering the 5-volt rail separate? rather than running 5 volt, because the MMB board is providing 5 volt across everything, and that includes, because the stepper motors use 5 volt for their enable stuff, right? I think what all the fan, which isn't going to draw much at all, but if it's not getting a stable 5 volt across all four, that could be an issue. Oh yeah, and you say hate it, but honestly, so the MOSFETI, I, I don't hate that idea actually. Um, where where on the MMB would I pull 24 volt from? I just want to on the MMB full display. Um, yeah, because nothing there is. Well, I know that's what's running the steppers. I'm just trying to say, like, where on an MMB would be. I'm like sitting here going, where on an MMB would be the best place to look at that? How about if I just grab another MMB? Because it's not like I don't have a ton of them here. This is a version 1.1, but there's like no 24 volt exposed. That's 3.3 volts. So yeah, 24 volt goes up and over to the motors. So the best place would be to um, the best place would be to which way are we going? Would solder into these two pads right here on the back, because that's the VN. The downside is that bypasses the fuse. Right? I'd much rather grab it after the fuse just for power sake, but I don't know of a way of pulling it. So I can't get my respool motors to work on either one. So what I've got here is, this is my blue and white one. This is the first one that I built that I've been trying to get to work on the Trident. The we just did voltage checks on the MOSFETI on the outputs going to the N20 motors up here. So the N20 motors are 6 volt, 500 watt, and they don't have enough oomph behind them. And I'm finding that every single one of them is getting less than 5 volts. It's like anything from 4.7 to 4.9. Might have to splice into cable, sadly. The one you're going to make me have to go find my, what are they, like the 25, 60. I've got a bunch of buck converters. I just have to go find one. Of course, I wouldn't have one readily available. Maybe. No, that's a relay. That's a relay. Hey, why would I have one right up here visible? Anyhow, I know I've got what the L2569, whatever the standard buck converter everybody uses off of Amazon. I know I've got a bunch of those somewhere. I just need to go find those. And I will try and, what I'll do is I'll grab another power supply, a 24 volt, run, I'll just do it benchtop and see if I get more steady amperage through here. And if I do, then that's the issue. And I'll just have to pull, what I'll do is, Mike, hell, I can make a different plug. Because there are different plugs. Like I can make a 2x3 plug, have 6 pins, and use, provide two 24 volt lines and 2 grounds coming in, and the CAN bus. And basically, it'll be a repin at the side skirt to basically allow the standard CAN bus cable, but also provide another 24 volt inject if that solves that problem. So we're going to need to test that. Trying to think. There's an easier way to test that. And there really isn't. So that's going to be the fun thing. So do we get into that, trying to set that up today? And I think the answer for that is going to be, well, yeah, we need to, because if we don't have that, then I don't have working box turtles or fully functioning box turtles. So long shot, I will tell you that the tweaks that we did in the slicer settings last night, and I know that, or last night, the last time on stream, and I know watching Zombie, he had a similar issue on his tool changer, which was, turn off tip forming and all the help that the slicer wants to do. By default, when you tell it you've got a tool changer or an MMU, when you turn all that stuff off, and let the software do what you've configured it to do, it actually works rather well. Okay. Said don't go crashing down. Work with me. All right. I'm going to sit over here and start digging through some stuff to see where I might have one of those boards at. Because like I said, I know I have one, it's just where. Big side. But, oh. That was the final print I got. The white legs, I did have one failed push. You can kind of see where it didn't transition to the white. Maybe. You can see where it didn't transition to the white, and I've got a layer gap there. So this top layer is crap on the white, but everything else finished nicely. But this was me manually respooling the whole way. Hey, Reverend 64, how's it going? So what we're missing, we're still having issues where the rewind motors that are up in the front head, the respooler motors, they're little N20 6-volt 500 RPM motors. And we're having issues where they're not engaging. And we just threw a voltmeter on there and they're getting less than 5 volts and they are rated for 6-volt 500 milliamps. So that might be why they don't seem to have enough oomph. So now what I'm looking for is one of the plethora of buck converters I have bought over the years. Anybody need relay fuses or switches? Got connectors for days and weeks. But I'm not seeing my buck converters in this box. So I'm going to have to look at the other 5 boxes. Because that's the way it goes, right? Anybody else have several boxes of connectors, fittings, and, well, and when I say boxes, I mean basket of crap that we've collected over the years. An old PC fan that we haven't decided to get rid of yet. Crash, bang, boom. You see something on a closeout sale and you just can't let it go by. You don't have a use for it right now, but you can't let it go. So you buy like 6 or 7 of them. Wires from previous builds. Who wants to go down memory lane with me? Ooh. Tiny ramps boards. And this is looking promising. How many relays do I need? Like I'm sitting here looking at cases for the 2956s. The question is there, yes, there's one. More than one? All the way down at the bottom of this? There's 2. And I think there's at least, there's 3. 4. Woohoo. Okay. Don't need relays. Don't need ramps boards. Need whatever this is. Stuff some wires back in there. That'll be my issue for another day. And just so I am tracking, right, the distance, I mean, 20 gauge wire should work fine for the distance that we're dealing with, right? I don't know why it wouldn't. Hey, Pezliz, how are you doing? I joined your stream, Pezliz, right as you rated out. I'm sorry. And it looked like zombie, zombies going away logo, but, speaking of zombie, I don't know. I'm wearing one of those hedgehog makes things. I don't know why. Yeah, and that's what I've got to work on is going through and cleaning up all of my electronics. And then either like I've got some Gridfinity over here that just has a bunch of different board types in it. Like Maker Millwright, you'll like this. If I don't drop it and spill it. So we've got Raspberry Pi Zero Ws. We've got a Banana Pi. We have a Radsa Pi Zero. We've got 8266. These are Node MCUs. Use them for lighting projects. We've got some Picos. We've got some other ESP32 boards. These are the D1s. SD cards, USB sticks. And the sad part is I keep finding new boards. I've got boards every damn where. Yep. So we're going to need to use at least one of these. This is the ubiquitous, what is it? Like I said, L2596 or 69 or something like that. Hey, TechnoSide, welcome in. Make a Viking. Yeah, the 2596 DC-DC buck converter. These are, I'll say, pretty ubiquitous. You probably know somebody that's using one of these. Huh. We won't be using this one, though. There's something a little fishy about the placement of that MOSFET. I'm going to have to talk to Evil Diesel about like a reflow or go get a reflow heater because that one is not usable. Oh, yeah. I don't have a step-up converter. I would just have a buck converter. And I've used these in several places. That's where I said I know I've got some of these that I've used before. Pretty simple. Input, solder the pad here. Output, solder the pad here. You, like you said, you just put it in line and adjust your pot to get the right output voltage. Plug it in and away you go. So what we'll need to do is kind of a little bit of mad science work. And what I'm going to do, what do I want to do? I think we'll work it on the bench top. We'll get this ready on the bench to make sure we can do 6-volt through. I'm just thinking. Can you hear the fire going back here? Oh no, that's cool, Pez Liz. Like I said, I had a late day meeting and I saw that you popped on and I went to pop on and you were just heading out to, I cannot remember the young lady's name. She was gaming something. Oh yeah, ESP32s are great. I could look at a step up converter. I know the buck step down converter would work because this is what everybody was using back in the day to do fans and stuff like that in their enders. So these work well enough when they're made and I don't know, the pads line up. So he's in the kitchen causing chaos, so you're unattended to cause chaos here. There you go. Pirate Gray. Hey, Zombie Pez, MG Techno, Maker Viking. I hope you're all doing well today. Yes, yes, yes. So I'm just trying to think what the heck I need to do. I need a 24 volt power supply. Doesn't need to be anything like huge, big. Technically, I don't need a 12 volt or 24 volt power supply. I just need something that is greater. Does this oh, this might work spectacularly. Does this fit like a glove? So this is a 12 volt power brick. So this might be useful because we can get a positive negative voltage out of here to bring in little, just do jumper wires on the bench top. And then we can validate our pot to make sure we're getting 6 volts. And then we can do some other hackery to get that connected in for the time being and see if that will work and give us what we need. So I need a couple of short wires. So let me go grab that big box of wire stuff that I put up. And once again, over the distances that we're using, it really doesn't need to be massive wire. So if I've got some short 20 gauge or so, that would work. Awesome. Now, at the very least, I may want to mount this on something just like this, just to keep it off from sliding into something metal on the bench here, or for me sliding it onto something metal on the bench here. So I might do that. I really don't need anything big. I just need to make sure that I can get 6 volts out the other side. I probably don't need a big cable for this. I know I was using 20 gauge before, but I don't technically need cable. It's that to do this test. Because what I'll need to do is get this wired up and soldered up to this side. I can check the output voltage and dial it in before we do anything on the bench here. And then we can bring this back down here, and we're going to temporarily come out of the outs and go into the MOSFET to see if we can get that. If that gets us working rewinder in 20 motors at 6 volts, then we know we've got a solution that we can then embed. And I can go and do less iffy ways of wiring. You know what? I just had a thought. Give me 1 second. What's a good way to prevent an accidental metal on metal connection when you're dealing with wiring? Well, use a wham bam slap mat. It's non-conductive. It's also kind of sticky, so whatever you're working on shouldn't move. When you're working in soldering, it's not going to stick to your bench. There we go. Get that out of the way. We do need to solder or otherwise connect our in and out wires here. At least the in, the out we can play with a little bit. So somehow I don't think this is going to make it all the way over here. How much room? That'll work. That should be. Don't you love getting into some mad science stuff? These off. Strippers. Yeah, I'm working on projects too, Maker Viking. I'm trying to get this one done and ready for 3D Printtopia so that I'll be able to take Box Turtle and show it off with everybody else. Because we're hoping to have, what, 6 or 7, I think, are going to be at the show. I know I'm going to be bringing at least 2, if not 3. Because if I can solve this problem, a third one will come lickety split. Oh, it's like, oh dear God, where did, like, thought I lost my solder. How do you lose solder? Apparently, it was going to be that one dude. Outside, we need the inside. little bit on there. Just going to tin this pad. Positive is toward me. Longer one shorter, the one shorter one. Like I said, we're dealing with 12 volts to 6 volts. Very short distance here for this test, so we're not going to need huge massive wires. I've got 20 gauge in the box turtle now, so when I go to do this permanently, I'll just use that 20 gauge wire. And like I said, I'll either run an extra 24 volt line through the side skirt up with it, or I will pull off the back side of the MMB, just solder the back side of the MMB. But this right here should give me the ability to test. And this is a screw down connector, and they always say to check the continuity on this to make sure that it was manufactured right and that the guy that did it wasn't, I don't know, drunk on shift or something. We're going to need this back out anyhow to test our voltage coming out. So we're just going to do a continuity test. And the negative pole should be to the outside. Right? Negative should be on the outside. Positive should be to the inner terminal. And we're good there. So we're just going to screw the ends of these wires in. I'm not going to do like ferrules and all that good stuff. Like I said, this is a bench test to make sure we can get 6 volts coming out the end. Oh, hell, I just had a thought. Well, no, I didn't. I thought I had a thought. Dang it. I was going to say we could do a Wago connector, but that won't work either because it's the XC30. Yeah, that wouldn't work either. Without doing some hackery that I just do not want to do. Now, when you're doing this, just make sure that you don't have any sprays. You don't want to arc this. These connectors are not the best quality. Give a tug test, make sure everything's nice and good and secure. And we will plug this in. I'll plug this side in, maybe. Oh, can't cook. I can cook bacon and eggs and not much else. Well, that's good. At least you can cook bacon and eggs. Oh. Okay, whoops. Not what we wanted to do. So let's just actually undo this fully so that we don't electrocute ourselves or set something on fire or damage something. So we've got our board on here. And we've lost the board already. Seriously? Oh. It just came undone. This cord is short, so I just need a longer cord to get things around. Or what I really need to do is just stop being. I just need to, let me shut off the rat rig. Oh. Okay. It doesn't want to play nice, so we shut it off that way. Now we've got a longer cable that we can use, and we can hopefully make it work out a little bit better. There we go. Got a blue light. Now what we need to do is figure out what our voltage is here. Pretty bright blue light too. So positive on the side where the blue light is. Negative on the other side. We got 12 volt coming in, so we at least need to go to 12 volt. See where we're at. We're at 1150. And I do not I have to use the iFixit. That's too big. So this is definitely a good call. Long shot. And I never know which way to rotate these. And I wonder, we can make this easier on ourselves. That one there. Like literally that, like the brightest damn LED. And then what do you do when your DC-DC buck converter does not change the voltage? Really, I'm turning this. You can see I'm turning it, and the voltage has not changed. It is still 11.5 volts. Oh, thought about going up to 2. Did not have to adjust it this much to get it to move. There we go. It's finally coming down. It's coming down fairly rapidly. So there we go. And we want this in a nominal 6 volts, right? Stopped on 6.66 there for a second. That wasn't good. Okay, so our output is 6.01. Good with that? Yeah, so 6.01 is good. That means that we are tracking at the preferred voltage of our N20 motors. We want to I think real fast. I think I have distance. I'm going to unplug that. I think I have distance to undo the whatchamacallit, the power connection to the MMB. we'll bring it down over here and we'll just take the connection directly in and see if we get better voltage at the MOSFET on the outputs for the motors, and then we can run a test. So I'm just going to kind of shove stuff up here out of the way. We've got our LM2596 AB DC DC quasi Wadi whatever. Now this is powered on right now, and I don't really want to be messing with the pins while this is powered on. So we will shut this down and then bring it back live here in a minute after we get our thing reconnected. Giving it a second for the Raspberry Pi to do its shutdown. Hey, thank you for the follow there, Eternal W. Sorry I had my face down here trying to work on some electronics piece so that I didn't lose sight of what I was doing. And I need to put this down on its side, take this out so I can get to the connector, because it'll be easier to do that. So we keep moving some things around. All good. Get that out of the way over there. Put this thick KVP box up here so that I can put that down without it sliding. I need to, it's easier to remove the lane 1 motor to get to your connectors down here, which is why I'm going to do this. And I don't know where that other one went. Where'd you went? Oh, there it is. Give me 1 second, folks. So prognosis for my niece was she just had ear infection. That's always. Okay, so we got that out of the way. We're going to unplug. Which one do we want? We wanted this one. Because we ran the positive and negative wires into the motor. And if we're going to do it this way, I would assume that we don't need to do the PWM anymore. Or no, maybe. I don't know. Would we need to do PWM if we're running the power from an external source? Yep, turtle's on its back. Turtle is on its back. Or is that just because of the particular pen that we are plugging it into that we need to do that? Okay, so it's basically based on um the requirement is the signal pin, not the power pin, or the where it's drawing the power from. I should. So I just did there was gave myself a little bit more room. I just removed this one zip tie for the time being. If this works, I'll have to figure out, um, yeah, just how to make it all work that way. There we go. Get that in the right direction. Couple of 3x8s back on. So the AFC boards, have you got your hands on one of those yet? And do you know, well, I guess it's rather than using a MOSFET, it would be driving those motors directly off the AFC light board, right? So we wouldn't have this. This is still part of the Band-Aid solution for using the Big Tree Tech MMBs. Okay, so that's reconnected. That over here, this over here. What I'm going to wind up doing, this will get plugged in there. Um, how do I want to set this up so that we can see these motors and still give me access to check things? So do like that. I can still get this down here. This will still come over and connect up. That's good. Um, so I wonder, I'll have to, I am actually going to cut and solder these to the board. Right now, I can always desolder them afterwards and remake cables if I need to. That's no big deal. But I think having this soldered on will free up my clips to actually go in and start testing some. So just to make sure that we're getting proper voltage all the way down. And then, if, like I said, if this works, then we know that that part is solved, and we can then go and test a few other things out. Well, not test a few other things out, but we'll have to reconfigure our stuff here to work. Not do that, grab this stuff. It would just be basically, if this works, that'll be great. I'll probably call the stream and I'll work on redoing some of this wiring stuff off stream, because doing this type of stuff I don't necessarily want to do on stream. That, and I may have been up way too late last night. Something about a game. Normally I wouldn't want to do something that's semi-permanent like this, but it'll be okay. I mean, the end result is I would be soldering this anyhow, so. You're going to do it and play satisfactory, huh? Yeah, somebody was like, "Hey, we have our own server. Come join our server." And I was like, "I've never played this game." So I started I'll call it basically like a single player. Hey, let me jump in and figure out the mechanics. And like, I've got my space elevator now. All right, come on. Now I've got to start working on getting stuff going into the space elevator. But it doesn't help that, KB3D says, "Hey, we have our own server. Come join us." Evil Diesel was actually a beta tester for it. Okay. That is connected. That in there, so it's out of the way. That over there. That brick goes that way. This brick will come this way. And without anything else plugged in, we're going to plug this brick in. And we can test our 6-volt out and see what we're getting at the MOSFETs. Which of course it's at that end. Need to test one of those. See what we're getting at that end. Negative on the right, power on the left, and oh wait, yeah, that's going to work, really, isn't it, Luke? It won't work because we don't have it plugged in and turned on. Damn it. How are we going to do this? This needs to come over here and plug in. This whole thing needs to get turned on. I need to run a test command, which will then let me check voltage at that side. All right, hold on. So we're going to want this up this way so I can easily get to the MOSFETs, and we can see and hear if these are moving. This is going to drop down, and we'll keep that out of the way of touching anything. That's plugged in. Turn the printer as a whole on. And I've got lights on lanes 3 and 4. Why would I have lights on there? Like these should be trying to go. They've been energized. Okay, lights are off now. These have just done their validation. Mouse. Try again. Back up and running. Probably doesn't remember my oh, it does remember my commands. Wow, awesome. Okay, so 1 and 2 would be on the whatchamacallit, on the PWM circuits. Lane 1 and 2 would be the no. Wait, yeah. Yep. All right. Just having a moment. There's a leg 1, 2. I am reading 0, 0. Put that up there, and let me see. Does overhead get that? Overhead gets it with a massive glare. There we go. So we're reading something nominal. It's probably because I'm getting my probes semi-close to one another here. Test lane 1 or leg 1. That came on. We're getting 5.9. Starts off full and then goes down to a lower voltage to do the test. I'm hearing it click and try. It's a lot stronger, but it's still not rotating. So I'm thinking I may have something binding in here. So let me go over on lane 2. .92. We could possibly turn it up just a little bit more. Okay, so that one, if I was putting some pressure down on, it was moving. So I'm going to go back up and try leg 1 again. We're doing okay. Shenanigans. Yeah, if there's weight on it, it may work. Let me look at 3 and 4, which are going to be full voltage. Yeah, I didn't get anything feel on that. Do we see full power on that? Yeah, we're getting full power. I'm just not getting movement. This will be lane 4. So I heard that one physically engage. But I didn't feel or see or hear anything move. I did hear it, like it clicked. Yeah, so KB3, you can have private servers, and I believe private servers are free. They tell you how to configure them. So we are getting a little more power. I probably want to turn it up just a little bit because we are getting some loss between the LM2596 and the MOSFETI through the gates. The only other thing that I thought of trying to do, and God, it would be painful, would be to try the individual MOSFETs long shot. Because how did you get yours wired up? Did you use the individual MOSFETs or did you use a MOSFETi? So we've got our jank test set up here. We weren't getting a full 6 volts out here. Whoops. We weren't getting a full 6 volts on the outputs of our motors. So these are 6 volt, 500 RPM in 20 motors. So if you're not getting the full amount, you're not going anywhere fast, right? That's point A. So what we've done is the jankiest solution. We're running a 12 volt power supply through a barrel jack into a LM2596 DC to DC buck converter, and then we just plumb the 20 gauge wire back into it from the front to provide power to the MOSFETi. So it's still getting signaling from the MMB, but the power is coming from the buck converter from the 12 volt power source. And what we were doing, so you did the individuals, yeah. So that would be, quite honestly, would be the next thing is to just do like individual boards right here at the front end of each motor. Did you have a mount for those, or how did you mount those long shot? Because that would be the next test that I can do. is to, I do have a bunch of those boards. I've got the two different types. Um, did you use these little fellas or the other ones? You double check mechanical spin first? Yeah, so that would be that's going to involve me taking all the lanes apart. Um, which what I will do is print out the new lanes for this, because if we're gonna disassemble it to take all the heads out, I want to go to the one that will make it easier, and then I will bench test one before I put them all in. Because in order to get these head units out on this version of the files, I have to take pretty much everything apart to get to it, which is painful. So going to that new design, which makes it a little bit easier for troubleshooting like that, which is one of the reasons I think they went to that new design, will make my life a little bit easier. And then we will, on the next stream, which will be Thursday, we will take this apart and, well, I may have it taken apart by then, and we will just bench test a lane and make sure that a lane works before we put it back together. Or maybe we'll bench test all 4 of those motors before we put it back together. And that way we'll know if we assemble it, if they're spinning on the bench and we assemble it and they're no longer spinning on the bench, then it's something's assembled too tight and we're binding. Right? Oh no, you're fine, long shot. That's technically the next step, is to disassemble the lanes and take one of the motors out so there's no chance of it binding whatsoever. And it'll take a bit. It might suck. It'll take a bit. I could probably do it. Let me go ahead and shut things down so that I can work with things. Where did I put my? I'm going to go ahead and shut the printer back down. Right? Safety first. We'll unplug the death trap. Put that off to the side. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is it might be binding, because I hear a couple of the motors trying. They're just not able to oomph, right? So that's where I'm thinking as well. It might be a binding issue. So give me half a second to pull the stuff that I threw in here out so that we can move the printer back off the bench, and then we'll do some work here on the box turtle. That's everything out there. We'll find out when I go to move it, huh? Oh, might want to move the stuff that I put where the printer is going to be going, and the plethora of cables I now have strung along the floor. Okay. Okie dokie. Now we're back to the bench top, and we will, what are we going to do? I think about the easiest way be to take this lane out. Because this would be lane 4. I should have the ability to get to all the connections relatively easily. And well, that's the only one I needed to take off. I say that, and then I realize that's the one that has all the wires that go down it. Doesn't matter. Nothing about this is going to be fun. So we're going to start with a little bit of snip, snip. Free up our wires so that we can pop some out. Those are out. Take the light out, let the light fall back through. Disconnect this. That's going to be the error. Well, here's the deal. We're going to have to do this to all of the lanes anyhow, because all of them are having movement issues, which means they're all going to be binding. So at the end of the day, we're going to have to take it all apart, and then we'll leave it on the bench spread out. So I think I'm just going to go through and basically disassemble my box turtle. Not like I haven't built one of these before, so putting it together for the third time should be pretty simple. Those out. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and start basically dismantling this, and then we'll lay it out on the bench and kind of get it wired back up, but on the bench, so that we can do some bench testing. I know the extruders work. I know the trigger sensors and all the end stops work. It's just those head motors that aren't working. So, but each one of these, we're going to have a motor, we'll have a trigger sensor, or I'm sorry, we'll have a motor and an end stop that'll come with it. So motor and end stop. Come on, dang it. Out you go. There's one. And we'll just start working our way back. one at a time, taking our wiring apart. Be very, very careful when you're cutting these wires, so you're not going to be redoing your wiring because you cut the cut one of your wires. Just cut your wire ties, and yeah, there's 50 bazillion. If you're talking about the buck converter, or are you talking about the standalone MOSFET? Yeah, I'm sure there would be standalone MOSFET stuff around there somewhere. Motor and install. And like I said, I'm going to rebuild all of my lanes anyhow. With the latest files, because on these lanes we come in from the side to mount the front respoolers, and on the newer version you don't do that anymore. So that will make it so much easier to be able to do maintenance on those front pieces. You can just disconnect wires and where'd that screw go? Apparently that's a non-magnetic one. I'm not using hedge clippers to cut zip ties. I'm using snips. I'm using appropriate snips. Do you use those like little nose nibbler types? Oh, I get you. So you're not supposed to use hedge clippers. Yeah. Yeah, no hedge clippers. Okay. There's those four. Might as well go ahead and undo the rest from the MOSFET. like I said, I will wire all of this back up the same way on the table here so that we can properly test everything out before we assemble it back into the frame. But this will give us an opportunity to validate that our wiring is good. We know everything's good up until the N20 motors. So that's the piece that we're going to have to work on. And getting the zip tie that you just dropped down in the. Hopefully that went all the way through. Okay. I think I'm going to just remove this from this side. Okay. Yeah, those. So this is the hub. This is the fan. These are all the front end stops. RGB lights. And then the stuff that goes to the MOSFET, I'm going to leave connected the way it is for main brain electronics stuff. And then we'll work on taking our frame apart. Sort of quasi sad day. I mean, it happens. The good news is it's like a lot of M3 by 8s. So it's not like we've got a lot of screws and stuff that we're going to be like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare to try and get everything back in right. Nope, it's all M3 by 8s. They're holding cables. I can see the argument. Yeah, they're holding the cables, which is why it makes it kind of a pain in the butt. So better just take them out of the way. Some of these I won't need to reprint. I'm not going to reprint like the corners, but I will reprint the side skirts so that they've got that hex pattern in them. We'll have to do that and a few other things. Oh, like part that's completely broken. That sucked. Don't know how that happened. The good thing is we've disassembled Box Turtle once or twice now. Just screw underneath the desk. So I've kind of gotten the hang of it now. There actually is a mod or a like a lid that's being prepped for it. They'll have a lid, and I think they're looking for a minimum desiccant. But there's a couple of different people that are looking at mods for it already. So what did I do with my hex tray? Right? Hex tray. It was just like I know it was here, and I moved it right before the stream. You guys wouldn't know what I did with it. Oh well. Guess I'm just gonna have screws everywhere. Easy enough to find, right? Right. Okay. One side off. And we'll be able to take the lights off. I realize this and taking these off before taking the frame apart. But is what it is. Now I got to remember and take the tiny screws out. So the good news is we know what's working, we know what's not working. Um, we know a lot of this is good to go. We've validated it. We'll be able to go through and assemble this or reassemble it fairly quickly, I'm thinking. Especially when I can do this. And I'm going to put tiny screws there, the other tiny screws there, all the M3x8s go into one. So I bet you guys didn't think you'd see a box turtle disassembly stream so soon. And I could have easily just taken the one lane out and tried to work on the one lane, but I know I'm having issues with all 4 lanes, so I might as well take it all apart and figure that out now as to why I'm having those issues. And then also, like I said, I'm going to reprint it to make maintenance easier down the line, because with the newer version of the printed parts, we'll be able to remove a couple of bolts at the bottom, and depending on how you do your wiring, you should be able to slide your entire respooler front head off. And out. I've seen somebody that did I think it was JST, was it like the, I don't know, there was a JST connector type that has the prongs on it. He either did that or microfits to make the LEDs like disconnectable. So if you had a LED go bad, you just basically desoldered and resoldered to a new one, versus having to disconnect the whole strip, throw it on the bench, and do a bunch of work on it. So I may wind up doing that while I have this out, because I think that's a pretty good quality of life fix as well, that makes it a little more modular and easier to maintain. Hey Jerry, how's it going? All right, go finish up dinner, free heathen. Finish up dinner, my dude. How's it going, Jerry? I I think we raided Indy on Saturday, but I didn't stick around too long. I was kind of exhausted. Been a long last week. Yeah, so basically what you would do is you would add pigtails, like right in here between each of the legs, so that, you know, I just do this one and take the last lane out, or I can undo this one and this one to take the, one of the middle lanes out. And it'll make it a little more modular and easy to work on. So we may do that while we have this taken apart. So for people like Jerry that just joined in, what we're dealing with here is the box turtle, which is basically an open source AMS, right? I'm having some issues. It works, right? It works. I've done a print on my red and orange one back here, but the blue and white one, actually both of them, I can't get the respooler motors to work. And they're these small N20 motors, and we validated that we're getting current to them, but it feels like they're binding, right? There's too much friction, they're binding. I can move it by hand, but they can't move by themselves. So I'm going to be redoing these and looking at them. And there's some new parts for, we'll say, quality of life, convenience things. So I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and reprint some of those parts while I have it apart, and on the next stream we'll come back together and we'll basically rebuild each lane using the latest and greatest files, which also means that one of the changes is I think they wound up cutting the number of M3 by 8 screws and the number of M3 heat set inserts like almost in half. So that'll be nice. And this, the lanes here will be fully modular. I will keep these. The biggest point will be to reprint the needed parts, and I will keep the solid skirts until I know for a fact I won't need them, because I've reprinted them. Like, I'm going to reprint everything else first, and then if I have to, I'll reprint the skirt pieces. Or at the last, I'll reprint the skirt pieces. So it will not be a hampering point at the end. We'll be able to rebuild this. I think the hub mounting back here is staying the same. I'm just going to leave this connected for now. But yeah, since we're having that same similar issue on both of the box turtles, we really need to take it apart and try and figure out what's going on with the binding in the lanes. That's kind of what we're doing. No, the new skirts are, I'm just going to be reprinting the skirts to do this effect on them. It's not required, but I'm reprinting it so that I can do this type of see-through mesh effect on them. It is definitely, that's why I'm saying the skirts I'm not going to reprint yet, because that is cosmetic. It's not functional. 100% is not functional. It's more of just trying to bling it out, because the end goal is taking this to 3D Printopia, and I need to have two that are working, one for my table and one for KB3D, which with any luck, I'll have three working. But I also have to do some work on the black box to get it ready to go as well. So I'm going to be busy. And yeah, I did not put any grease on the gears. It's a printed gear. It's a, what is it, a 10 tooth spur gear to a 24 tooth spur gear. So and I'll also need to go out and cut more frames, because I cut my own frames with parts that I had here at the house. So I'd have to go and all right, stop talking because I had a piece in my mouth. And this is another foot piece that is cracked. So and the cracking that I'm getting on these pieces, it's not the M5 compression, it's the M3 that's cracking and breaking on them. So I'll have to print a couple of more pieces of those. Oh, the skirts are thinner. Good to know. So sounds like I will be setting up and reprinting a whole, like I'm just going to reprint the whole thing then, which will be a couple of days worth of printing. Yeah, we'll definitely be working on this at least on Thursday. We'll be assembling the lanes, and like I said, we'll leave the electronics out here. I don't think there's any changes to the extruder, right? Like the extruder still mounts the same way on the lanes, so there shouldn't be a change to the extruder, I would hope. Move the built-in supports minus the fan and cable port. Okay. All right. So we're basically torn down, and honestly, I probably didn't need to take the frame completely. Well, yeah, we're good. We're good. Stop second guessing yourself. 3, 2.5, 2. And so once again, these are the parts that are really tight, and I think they're tight in here side to side, because I'm hearing some potential rub. And go ahead and work on taking this lane apart. I need to, at the very least, remove that hub assembly. Oh, okay. I mean, I'll take a look at it. Quite honestly, the extruders are working. So it's kind of like, do I even mess with those? Unless the mounting points change. If the mounting points change, then yeah, I'll have to redo those as well. And this was one of the quality of life things is you've got to come in here like this. Whoops. You've got to come in here like this on both sides. So you've got to remove 4 screws. And newer ones, I think there's 2 right here in the front that latch. And these little ears right here are part of the frame mount. So you could not remove the lane without taking the frame apart. And you couldn't remove this front piece without taking the entire lane apart. With them doing this now makes it so you can take the lane apart or take the respool motors apart and do any type of maintenance on them without doing what I'm doing right now and taking the whole box turtle apart. So definitely, I liked it. I'm not complaining about the number of parts or anything like that. It was just some of the things that we found as we built them out and worked on them that it was like, hey, this needs to be changed or that needs to be changed or hey, why don't we do this? Um, and like this one, that motor wire is a little. We'll just say it was in there tightly. Yep. I'll just keep disassembling and like I said, on the next stream, I'm going to have to try and get some things sliced and start printing stuff tonight. And yeah, I guess we'll be doing another box turtle build, but I'm going to try and do like a speed build on it. Now that we built one, because I'm kind of running out of time between now and 3D Printopia. Don't know if anybody else feels that or not, but yeah. It should be good to leave all the wiring done. It's just matching up this lane, that lane, and the other lane together. So I don't want to tear down this head until I'm ready to fully tear it down so that I can keep the right lengths of wire together. So we'll tear down one head and we'll rebuild it. And that will give us the ability to kind of keep everything together. Heck. Let me build them right back and, keep the end stops and everything together so that we can rebuild it and mount it right back in the same spot. I hope I don't have to go through and rewire everything. That would suck. Someday, yeah. It's a lot of fun. 3D Printopia, though, you got to be careful because they're the only fest that will shut the power off at night because it's at a school. So they're trying to do, conserve power and stuff like that, and I get it. But when they say power's going down at this time, they mean power's going down at that time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no mulligans. It's power's going out. And if you're not ready, your prints are failed, and you're going to wind up with nozzle clogs, the whole 9 yards. So, did not make me a happy camper when that happened to me, but, is what it is. Not my circus. I just have to play as a monkey. So, Jerry, you have a Bamboo Labs, correct? Like a P1S or P1P or something? And after we do this particular read or tear down, maybe it'll. You got your P1S a little over a week ago. Yeah, I've got a pair of X1C carbons, and it is so nice because you point, click, and they just print, and just great prints. I haven't had to really tweak too much on it. I do have some of Zombie's tuned profiles, but definitely not a hard and fast requirement to use in the Bamboo, that's for sure. The good news, like I said, is there's very few different size screws, so that's always good. Keeps the number of different types that you need to get down. I think I'm looking at really four type sizes. So I'm looking at M3 by 8s, socket head, M5. I'm using by 10. It says M5 by 16 because that's the standard for a Voron frame. Just be careful because if you did not tap your rails deep enough, you will break your rails, or you'll have issues trying to get your screws all the way in. So running like an M3 by 12 or an M3 by 10 should be plenty fine. We're not trying to support the weight of a printer here. And like I said, I mean, the AMS on the Bamboo is the closest thing to the microwave oven of 3D printing. You plug it in, you install an app on your phone or an app on your the slicer on your uh, computer, and you're printing, right? It's a good ecosystem, um, and you don't have to do a lot of tweaking like you would if you had like an Ender, the maligned printer known as the Ender. Glad that didn't go very far. I'll take those off as well. I'm sure I'm going to have to go through and, yeah, the A1 Series 2. I talk about the X1, P1P just because, those are a lot better for what I do because I do a lot of ABS or ASA. But yeah, don't knock the A1 or the A1 Mini. Especially not if you get the combo, because then you've got the multicolor option. So you don't have to be a manual color swap queen like has Liz. Okay. Those are removed. Oh. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and keep the end stops with the heads until when I go to rebuild them, I'll rebuild them one at a time. And that'll make, I'll take one apart and rebuild the other one. And I'll be reusing as much of the hardware in the same part. So, and the fun part is because I'm not going to reuse these wheels, if I need to, I may just Dremel them off. Oh, where that one came off. That was nice. The other side's not coming off, but that side came off. And hell, it could have been, yeah, I think it was just a binding issue. Because just right now, that's spinning freer than it was. Just having the one wheel off. Yeah, so 3 of them, I'm hearing the gears actuate. And then this one, I'm not hearing the gears at all. So this may have a dead motor in it. Or something is freewheeling in there. I just heard it for half a second. Yeah, may have to cut those out, smash them out or something. Oh, let's. Oh. Is- Yeah, I have no idea why this one. Doesn't matter. Like I said, we're going to be taking these apart and fully rebuilding them. So yes, this is engaging one way and kind of free spinning for the most part the other way. And I think it is I think what I'm seeing is, yeah, that's that's my error right there. So this wheel is moving way more. As soon as it hits resistance, it's freewheels. And that is not necessarily this, but I reamed these out and I shouldn't have. I should have just press fit the darn things and been good. So, okay. Lesson learned. Um, Quite possible I could just reprint these gears and reassemble everything and it would work. Quite possible. Not going to guarantee, but possible. Okay. Um, no, this one did not have spacers in it. This was the original Rev file set that I got back in early to mid August. That's what I'm saying. I need to reprint to the latest greatest version of the files anyhow. And I hope like things like the lever aren't bad because trying to pry the ECAS and getting the super glued magnets out of there probably is not going to be fun. Um, like the one in there is not going to be fun at all. I've got plenty of those magnets though, so I can just replace them and then try and dig those out at my leisure. But yeah, it looks like I'm going to have a decent amount of work some this evening and then tomorrow evening to try and break some things down even more and get some stuff printed. Like I'm going to print stuff and as I need it, I will take heat sets out and just pull it out of one, put it right into the next one and start getting things ready to go and recover whatever heat sets are not going to be used. So that sounds like it's going to be my evening tonight. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it for this evening because like I said, I need to I'm going to need to concentrate and grab the, uh, figure out what files I need to start printing and start getting stuff sliced up and going again. And we will re-engage on the box turtle on Thursday. And of course, if I'm rebuilding the one, I may be rebuilding the other one. And I don't think I have enough Galaxy Orange and Galaxy Red. Oh, well, man, I might. I might. I might have enough Galaxy Orange and Galaxy Red because I think I printed the skirts twice already. It may be that I just use the same skirts and say the hell with it on the red. So I'll reprint the lanes and up on the red and orange one after this one's working. If I can get this one to working and I know it's like my issues within these heads and we get these squared away, then it becomes I will print what I need to do for the red and orange one to make it work, which could just be the lanes and call it done. Tech Jeeper is live with a telescope. Rock on. So yeah, let me stuff out of the way here. And I'm going to have to figure out where to put a bunch of stuff because I moved a bunch of stuff from a table here over onto my desk. And well, I have to work tomorrow. So I've got to move that around. But all of this is pretty much going to have to stay here. Okay. I think that's my complaint right now. So thank you everybody for being here and spending your Tuesday evening with me. Like I said, we will get through this. We will continue to work our way through this. And yeah, great times. So, I swear we're going to get one of these built and it's going to work and it's going to be beautiful. We had the other one working, or the other one. We had the orange and red one. I did get a print off of it. It would still need to be tuned in a little bit, but I did get a print off of it, and it was looking pretty good. So I do know that functionally the box turtle works. What I'm still trying to work through is just the uh like the assembly pieces. Like it's very much so an assembly error on my part that needs to get resolved. So we'll print out the new parts so that we're running with the latest and greatest. And we'll go ahead and reassemble. And we'll start doing that on Thursday. And the plan will be I will get the lanes reassembled. And then we will wire it up on the bench, apply power, check things before we put it in full frame. I will bench test this one before we do the full Monty on it. Sorry about that. That was kind of loud. But yeah, thank you all for being here. And we will go ahead and I think Liz said it was Tech Jeeper. Yeah, let's go jump over to Tech Jeeper and look at the stars some. Or I'm not sure if he's looking at stars or if he's just building it. Let's go find Tech Jeeper and jump over there. Dwarf Labs Dwarf 3 Smart Telescope. First time. Working through software stuff on it now. But like I said, I'll go ahead and get the raid started over there. thank you everybody for hanging out with me, and long shot and everybody for helping me troubleshoot this to make sure that we have another successful build out there and we can get our serial numbers up. Once again, once we get 25 serials in the closed beta, they'll open it up for an open beta, and that will be a lot more fun for everybody. So thank you all for being here. And I will see you guys on Thursday, and we'll continue into Saturday. But Saturday will be short because I got to go get Miss Dragon or she'll kill me. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. Let me go ahead and get that raid moving on out. Bye now.